In this WrestleTalk news, Triple H shoots on AEW and Chris Jericho responds, an update on Becky Lynch returning to WWE, my review of SmackDown, and Tempest review of Rampage. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Triple H has been riding high since taking control of WWE's creative, surfing that wave of momentum and garnering a lot of fan support while doing it. Prior to him taking that role, however, things weren't looking so great. NXT had essentially conceded the Wednesday Night War, moving to Tuesdays and eventually being rebranded as NXT 2.0, essentially admitting defeat to AEW. For a long time, WWE, and Triple H in particular, had referred to NXT as their third brand, not developmental, even having NXT compete in and win at Survivor Series 2019, besting both Raw and SmackDown in the process. But in an interview with Ariel Helwani, Triple H had some curious thoughts about that, as Ariel asked him if he was being punished for losing to AEW in the Wednesday Night War, to which Trips responded, no, people put so much pressure on this competitive war. It was never that. First of all, they beat our developmental system. Good for them. It was never that. There was never pressure of, you have to beat them. It was never that. Just gonna remind you that Triple H said that it was a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to competition against AEW, and that NXT was their third brand, and that he called it a pissant company. It's a classic case of moving the goalposts, and AEW star Chris Jericho didn't take kindly to it. Responding in an interview with Alex McCarthy of Inside the Ropes, once again, it is just changing the narrative and changing the history, which makes me laugh, because when it started, it was not developmental, it was a third brand. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and all the other bull they said. It's such old news, and the show sucks. NXT sucks, it's not a good show, and they know it. Whether they were punished or not, they probably were punished. That's probably why Triple H said those things, because he is angry that we beat them, and he is probably angry that we exist. What do you think about these comments? Let us know in our comments. Someone who's been out of action since SummerSlam, and looked like they were going to be out for a while, is Becky Lynch. Lynch suffered a separated shoulder in her match with Bianca Belair on July 30th. And while a story was set up in the post-match, with Becky turning face and standing alongside Bianca to face the new group of Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky, she then had to take time off to heal. In a positive update though, reliable Reddit source Kermit125 has noted that Lynch is expected back in WWE this month. Lynch had also recently taken to Instagram to give an update herself, where she also seemed positive, noting that she expected to have a lengthy absence from the ring, but the recovery process is going well, and that she could be back sooner rather than later. This is all great stuff, and fingers crossed she can recover fully soon. It's unfortunate that she'll be missing Clash at the Castle, but maybe she can be back in time for the next show, whatever that is. Extreme Rules? Let's go with that. And now it's time for my review of SmackDown in about 5 minutes. This show began with a Viking rules match between the Viking Raiders and New Day, where there were no rules, and it's Falls Count Anywhere. So a Falls Count Anywhere match then. They were really trying with the setup of this match. They had the end of a Viking longboat attached to the end of the ring. The Tron throughout the match was just the sea, and the ring was lined with Viking shields, and I'm sure some people liked it, and I didn't hate it, but it didn't quite work for me. But at the end of the day, none of that matters, because this match was awesome. It got a ton of time, had some fantastic spots and near falls, and built to a dramatic climax of the Raiders hitting their finisher that they're now calling Ragnarok, thumbs up for the name, on Xavier Woods through 2 tables off the boat on the outside. The Raiders looked great coming out of this, and now hopefully this feud is done and both teams can go do something else of substance. Also a friendly reminder that Xavier Woods is such a fantastic wrestler and should be given all the championships all the time. Okay, thanks, bye. Shayna Baszler backstage said she was going to destroy Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan retorted that she was going to rip Baszler's arm off. This was solid enough, but definitely didn't feel like a go-home angle, where I maybe would have liked to have seen a bit more physicality, or Baszler destroying someone else perhaps. Karrion Kross had his in-ring debut. Next, that's right, debut. He never wrestled on the main roster before. No, it didn't happen, shut up. He squashed Drew Gulak in a fun enough match, got over to an audience who hadn't seen him before what he's about, and he left Gulak tied up in the ropes on the outside, hanging by his arms, which was a pretty cool visual. Ronda Rousey came out next to address her arrest a couple of weeks ago, where she had a nice back and forth with Adam Pearce. I thought Ronda was really good in this segment, having Adam read the letter aloud, and in inserting snide comments and sarcastic quips here and there. It doesn't sound like Ronda's forte, but she pulled it off quite well. The board of directors reinstated Ronda as a wrestler, and Adam Pearce snapped, feeling undermined by his decision and laying into Ronda as the scapegoat for the frustrations he'd been feeling. Nobody thanks him for this job. He's always having to babysit people like Ronda, and she's the biggest bitch he's ever met. Can't be saying that these days, Adam. Ronda then put him in an armbar, and this was a very effective segment, I thought. Hit Row faced Maximum Male Models next in a quick match where Hit Row won. I don't really have too much else to say here. The models had a couple of fun spots, but aside from that, this was pretty formulaic. The Street Profits saved Hit Row from a post-match beatdown. Happy Corbin issued an open challenge to try and get a win, but it was answered by Shinsuke Nakamura. Great. I haven't seen enough of these two wrestling. At least it's not for the custody of a crown this time. Shinsuke won pretty quickly. Sucks to be Corbin, I guess. The more intriguing part of this, however, came afterwards when a limo pulled up and through the back window someone unseen says to Corbin, "What happened to you? Get in." And Corbin enters the limo. I wonder who it could be. Oh, it's JBL. It had the horns on the front of the limo. It's JBL. It's character progression, and I'm all for that. Just mildly curious where this one's going. Butch then faced Ludwig Kaiser next, and while he was still called Butch, he had Pete Dunne wrestling gear, he wrestled like Pete Dunne, and he won like Pete Dunne, snapping the fingers and hitting the bitter end on Kaiser after a very fun match. Kaiser stopped Sheamus and Gunther brawling after the match, and this was a fun, if fairly inconsequential match. But it's nice to see Butch Dunne on our screens at least. Throughout the show, there were count them, 5 video packages highlighting Roman Reigns' historic 2-year title reign. Each one highlighted a different part of the reign, such as the amount of main events he'd been in, how many opponents he'd faced, the stipulations he'd been in, etc. They were good enough and well edited, but felt maybe a little too repetitive and could have been condensed into one awesome video package. There were also a handful of backstage segments with Sami Zayn organizing Roman Reigns' 2-year title celebration ceremony. He had his hair done, he's got dressed up, he's got plans for this party, and Jay still isn't happy with it, saying he's been getting awfully comfortable around here. Sami pleads with Jimmy, asking him to calm Jay down, and Jimmy leads Jay away, saying that Sami has the party on lock, to which Sami responds with, yeet. Sami is an absolute treasure, and I cannot put over how great he is in these backstage segments. In another, Karrion Kross had sent flowers to the locker room, but the flowers smelt bad and they were black, and the little note that says who they're from simply said TikTok. Ooh, spooky. And in one more backstage segment, Sami is finalizing plans for the celebration, and Jay still doesn't like him, but Jimmy eases tension, saying it's not about them. Let's go out together and put the spotlight where it belongs, on Roman. In the celebration itself, Sami asked Jimmy if it's okay if he hosts, as he got dressed up for it, and he wouldn't want anyone to accuse him of getting too comfortable, as he shoots a look at Jay, scathing. Jay interrupts Sami's speech though, and talks about how Roman has been dominant for 2 years, where after each sentence, Sami adds a comment like, "Yeet, 100, or preach." I must once again remind you that Sami is an absolute treasure. They introduce Roman Reigns, but as he arrives and gets out of his car, great timing on that one, Roman, Drew McIntyre attacks him, hitting a claymore into the car. Drew then stormed to the ring and took out everyone there, hitting a claymore off Sami through a chair, suplexing one Uso through the announce table, and spearing the other through the barricade. After a quick promo saying how he was going to beat Roman on Saturday, I am hyped for this match. This was all very good stuff. I'm into it, and I do truly believe that Drew has a good chance of winning at the show tonight. I hope that statement didn't age poorly. Overall, this was another good show. It built Clash at the Castle somewhat effectively, though some feuds were forgotten about, had some great wrestling, and there's character progression aplenty, and that makes me happy. This SmackDown gets a 4 out of 5. We'll be doing live reactions for Clash at the Castle tonight, live from our watch party, where the whole crew will be getting involved, so subscribe to the WrestleTalk podcast channel for that show tonight. Now, hot tag to Tempest.
Thanks, Pete. We open Rampage with our semi-final match in the Trios tournament between Dark Order and Best Friends, and right off the bat, I gotta say, it's very neat that even after 3 years of AEW, we're still capable of getting fresh combinations of guys like Hangman Page and Orange Cassidy, who opened up this match by wrestling to a stalemate while Orange was well, being orange. This was a really fun opener with tons of near falls as best friends hit the anthill, yes, that's what that move is called, it turns out, and took out Hangman Page before John Silver rolled up Chuck Taylor for the win. I really like that Hangman didn't get the pin here, makes it seem like even more of a group effort with Dark Order still capable of holding their own, which is important to firmly establish since they've been a comedy group for the better part of their run in AEW. This means the Elite will indeed face the Dark Order in the tournament finals at All Out, once again illustrating that things being predictable isn't a bad thing as long as the story makes sense. 4 out of 5. Eddie Kingston said he has learned more since Tomohiro Ishii beat him last time and has continued to walk the King's Road. Them's fighting words, y'all. Okay, because you see, in New Japan, their style is often referred to as strong style. Well, in New Japan's rival promotion, All Japan, the style is called King's Road. And no, don't cut away. I still have more. Ray Phoenix then squashed Blake Christian to give him some momentum heading into All Out. I mean, the work here was better than you'd see in most squash matches, but if this match took place just about anywhere else, this would have torn the house down. I get that's not the purpose of this match on this show, but Blake Christian is excellent, getting to hit a twisting moonsault, but if these two wrestle again on like a PWG or GCW show, I will absolutely watch it. This was fine, and Phoenix won with the Phoenix Driver. 2 out of 5. 2.0 make Hook angry and he walks away, and then we just had a straight up rematch as Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello faced Ortiz and Ruby Soho. Not often do you just see the same match 2 weeks in a row from AEW. Ruby Soho managed to roll up Ty Mello and get the win before picking up the AAA mixed tag titles, and it was then announced that this match will happen a third time on the All Out pre-show for the titles. Gee whiz, a 15th match on All Out? Thanks, Mom, you shouldn't have! 3 out of 5. Don Callis sowed some dissent into Hangman Page backstage, and then we got a backstage face-off between The Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory. On one hand, I think having this be the only segment for the World Tag Team Championship match the week of the pay-per-view is a very poor choice. This segment actually kinda slapped. Bowens called Swerve and Keith Timon and Pumbaa, and Swerve said The Acclaimed have been there for 3 years making stupid rap jokes and getting injured while they are the mountain of the tag team division made of rock, stone, and gravel, and everyone knows rock beats scissors. Cold ass line. FTR and Wardlow come out for a promo as Dax says every match adds to their legacy and you don't mess with a man's family, money, and friends. But they then got interrupted by Lethal's crew and the Motor City Machine Guns finally making their AEW debuts. They fit like a glove. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley cut heel promos saying Detroit is the best city in the world because it is okay for heels to lie, and saying they have the respect of the AEW locker room for defining a generation of tag team wrestling. Sanjay Dutt asked Dax if he's gonna fight like his 8-year-old brat, and Dax charges him and had to be held back. I would have liked a little bit more out of this segment, maybe some physicality to cap it off, but as it stands, things just sort of ended with Dax in a huff. He better come out of the gates firing on Sunday. 3 out of 5. And then I am once again completely baffled by the choice of main event for Rampage as Ricky Starks took on QT Marshall. Ricky locked the factory in their locker room during Mark Henry's backstage interview, and then he and QT brawled to the ring from the back. This eventually got in the ring and QT got the heat until Ricky hit his spear and the Rochambeau for the win before brawling with Powerhouse Hobbs to take the show off the air. I love Ricky Starks, but I have no idea why the match order for Rampage is so routinely off its nut. People usually say it's because it's taped after Dynamite and you don't want to burn the crowd out, make them wait too long for the main event. But this one was live, so what's the excuse now? It would make a lot more sense to me to have this match as the opener and then the trios match as the main event. But what do I know? This match gets a 3 out of 5 to cap off another largely forgettable show. The trios match was fun, but nothing else here was terribly memorable. Rampage gets a 3 out of 5 this week.
In this WrestleTalk news, Malachi Black requests its AEW release ? Bobby Fish has gone from AEW, and Tony Khan media call gaffes aplenty. So subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.